This is the Crime Cafe, your podcasting source of great crime, suspense, and thriller writing. I'm your host, Debbi Mack. Before I bring on my guest, I'll just remind you that the Crime Cafe has 2 ebooks for sale, the 9-book box set and the short story anthology. You can find the buy links for both on my website, debbimack.com, DEBBIMACK.com, under the Crime Cafe link. You can also get a free copy of either book if you become a Patreon supporter. You'll get that and much more if you support the podcast on Patreon, along with our eternal gratitude for doing so. Hi, everyone. Before we get started, I'd like to express my thanks to S. Corin for becoming our latest Patreon supporter. Every little bit helps, you guys, so thank you so much. Having said that, our guest is making a return visit today, a poet as well as a mystery writer. She's the author of the Emmeline Kirby Gregory Longdon Mystery Series, and her name is Daniella Bernett. Hi, Daniella. It's good to see you again.
Hi, it's nice to be back.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your latest book in the series.
Well, my latest book is called When Blood Runs Cold. And my series is the Emmeline Kirby Gregory Longdon series. It's about a journalist and a jewel thief. And in this book, we deal with a diamond, spies, and poisonous lies.
Well, that's interesting.
A lot of elements there.
It seems to me that each book brings Emmeline and Gregory a bit closer together. At the same time, all these secrets from the past crawl out of the woodwork and seem to conspire to keep them apart, or at the very least threaten them.
Yes.
Do you come up with these complications as you write each book, or were they planned from book 1?
They were actually planned for book 1 because it is a series. I leave a little something in one book and develop it a little bit more, give you a little hint for the next book. So it was planned from the beginning. So, and in this particular book, Emmeline and Gregory are engaged, but as you noted, there is a lie, like everything Emmeline thought about her life. All of a sudden she discovers it's been a lie, and that does have an impact on the dynamic of their relationship and to the rest of the story and a number of the characters that they do meet. And it also has another element, something from Gregory's past. This ruthless entrepreneur named Alistair Swanbeck has come back for revenge against Gregory for things that should have been left alone.
Yes. Yes, I noticed Swanbeck there
Yes.
is introduced right there at the beginning, and along with the fact that Emmeline's parents were murdered.
Yes, she discovered that at the end of the previous book, A Checkered Past, because what she had been told, because her parents were journalists like she was, and she had been told that they had been killed while on assignment when she was 5 years old. So that's what she had believed up until this point. But at the end of A Checkered Past, we discover that her parents were really murdered. So that's the way When Blood Run Cold starts out. She's determined to follow their killer, even though it has been 25 years since her parents died.
Oh, so that's a very cold case.
Yeah.
So I take it you're one of those writers who likes to create, say, big biographies for your characters before you get started on the work?
Well, I mean, I think for any author, it's important that the author knows everything about each character so that you know how a character would react in a certain situation, you know what would make them angry, you know, their foibles, their good qualities. That's important for an author to know so that as you're creating stories, the readers, once they've made that connection, they'll say, oh, she's in trouble because she has a short temper, or because of this. So it's very important that an author develops the biographies of each character, especially for me in terms of a series. I have the ongoing Emmeline and Gregory, and that's important to know their backgrounds to see how it affects their life now.
Mm-hmm. Are you more of a plotter or a pantser? I think I know the answer, but why don't you tell
Well,
me?
I'm definitely a plotter. I don't do an outline, but I do like to plot out each book in my head before I start, because I like to have that basic skeleton of the plot to follow. As I'm writing, I may think may come up with another idea, but at least I have that basic line to follow, and I always know from the beginning who the killer is. I think that's important for me. It's important because then I can put the red herrings, I can put the important clues if I know who the bad guy is from the beginning.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, I have a tendency to work the same way. You hold down a regular 9 to 5 job and write books. I think that's remarkable. What kind of writing schedule do you follow? And do you have a certain number of hours or number of words you like to try to reach?
Well, finding the time to squeeze in to write, that's the most difficult thing for me, because as you said, I do have a full-time job. So I can only write in the evenings when I come home from work and on the weekends, because during the day, that's impossible because I have my job to do. So, some days when I come home from work, I'm tired or my brain is not functioning and I can only write a paragraph. And that's frustrating for me because I have so little time to begin with. And then other days, the muse is working and I can write 2 or 3 pages. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have, I know some people say they want to write 1,000 words a day. It's whatever I can squeeze in to do because of my job.
I can fully appreciate that. This latest book and the last one really gets into some international political territory.
Yes.
How much how much do you rely on current events for your material?
Well, I mean, a certain, like with this story in particular, it deals with a Russian defector in London who is killed. And as we know from it's well documented that Putin is always considers defectors or those who are his opponents as traitors. So, I mean, that obviously that aspect of my story takes from real life. And then I develop my own tale based on that essential little nugget. So yeah, I mean, in terms of inspiration, current events impact it, especially for Emmeline being a journalist. Of course, current events to a certain extent will affect my storyline, because a journalist is curious, always wants to know about things, is always following up leads. So she would be, current events have to impact it in some way because of her job.
Yes, yes. It's just that some authors try for a kind of timeless quality to their work, and some people are very rooted in a particular period.
Uh,
Um, when would you say this is taking place?
Well, my books are set in 2010, so it's contemporary, but it's not, today. So it is a few years back, but some of the same issues still are ongoing in terms of the Russians, with the defectors and Putin, as I mentioned. And for example, back in 2006, a former FSB agent, Alexander Litvinenko, was poisoned at a hotel in London after a meeting with 2 Russians. So to that extent, some of that gave me a spark of an idea, because there are a couple of poisonings in my book. So, that was an idea. So it is rooted in today, but it's not based on a specific event because I'm developing my own story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the book is going to outlive you. So,
Yeah,
I mean, you hope it's something that people will read 50 years from now and still
I hope
love
so. Yeah, I hope so.
because of the timelessness of the themes of
Yeah,
relationships.
Right, exactly that. I mean, you have these contemporary issues, but you have these elements of everyday life: jealousy, love, hate, greed. That all, it's just how you mix all that all up in a bowl to create the story. And then you add the element of issues of the day. But those are timeless. Those things affect people on a daily basis. Those are human emotions and motives for doing various things.
Exactly. I mean, it's just the human experience. Um, so, what are you working on now?
What am I working on now? I'm actually working on book 7, because I'm a couple of books ahead. Because When Blood Runs Cold is book 5. Old Sins Never Die is book 6, which will be coming out in fall of 2020. But I am working on book 7. But I do not want to give you the title, because I don't like to mention that at the when I'm in the middle of my book. But let me assure you that it's still, Emmeline and Gregory are still getting into an awful lot of trouble.
Oh my gosh.
And actually, speaking of book 7, a couple of the characters from When Blood Runs Cold, the one that just came out, some of the issues that come up in this one affect what's happening in with the book I'm working on right now. So as you can see, I leave things and I develop them a little bit more later on.
Hmm. I gotta ask, will Gregory ever get exonerated? Will he ever be accepted as a non-jewel thief?
Well, I mean, as you saw in A Checkered Past, he was a jewel thief, but now, because Emmeline gave him an ultimatum, either he finds a legitimate job or she won't marry him. So he did find a job as an insurance investigator, but everybody's looking at that as the fox in the hen house. So he is doing his job, but once a jewel thief, always a jewel thief. Life is a little tame now as an insurance investigator, but something does spark his interest in this book. It's called The Blue Angel. It's a 12-carat blue diamond, and there's a very intense, heated bidding war at a Sotheby's auction in the book, and that plays a big part in the story as well.
Hmm. Okay. Well, Gregory will always be Gregory, I guess.
That's right.
Um, do you have a plan for how many books you want to write in the series?
A lot of people have asked me that. It's at this stage, I will write the series until I can't think of any more trouble for Emmeline and Gregory to get embroiled in. But I haven't set out that I'm only going to do 10 books or 3 books. When I get to the point when I can't think of any more storylines for the two of them, perhaps I'll start a new series.
Mm-hmm. Um, does your research into the subject matter ever take you to England itself? Do you often go to England to do research there?
Well, I've visited the UK and London a number of times, and because I've been an Anglophile since I was a little kid. But for me, in terms of research, I get the ideas for my books when I'm somewhere, like a certain setting or a certain restaurant. All of a sudden, when I'm there, it gives me an idea. It's not that I have the storyline in my head. I say, oh, now I have to visit the place so I can develop it more. It's really when I'm already there. So in terms of my research, I get the feeling or the sense of a place when I'm there, not sitting here at home trying to develop my story and say, okay, now I have to go there to get the feel and the taste and the sense of the site.
Hmm, interesting. So you've been to London before and probably gotten these ideas while you were there.
Oh yes.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
interesting.
and I like some certain places in my books. I like to feature them because it made an impression on me. I liked a certain restaurant, or Regent's Park has appeared a number of times in my books because I loved going there. And then some of the major sites, of course, they would figure in the book somehow.
Hmm. Okay. Well, that's really cool because when I went to the UK, I just loved the experience of going, and I can see where it'd be a great place to develop all sorts of interesting ideas.
Yeah, and as I said too, I've been an Anglophile since I was a little kid. So I was always reading books about England, reading books set in England, or watching television programs or movies. So I was already steeped in that atmosphere and, certain settings, the countryside, London. So I knew when I started my series that my characters had to be British. It had to essentially be based most of the time in England. I mean, I do, like the previous book, I was in Scotland a little bit. The one, book 6, it was in Scotland a little bit. The first book also took place in Venice, another one of my loves. So, but essentially, because they are British, essentially I knew my series would be based in London or in the UK.
Mm-hmm. And are you still writing poetry?
No, right. No, I'm just focusing on my series. I mean, I do occasionally get an idea for a poem, but I'm right now I'm dedicated to my series.
Well, very good. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us before we finish up?
Well, let's see if I'm always happy to hear from readers. There's an email on my website, which is daniellabernett.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Goodreads. So if anybody would like to follow me, and as I said, I'm always happy to hear from readers. So if they want to leave me a little note, I'd be glad to answer back or any questions. And I'm just delighted to be here. And I hope Emmeline and Gregory will live in readers' hearts for a long time, and that they'd be eager to continue to follow their adventures.
Awesome. Well, I got to tell you, I've been enjoying the books, and I certainly hope that everybody goes out and checks Amazon or wherever you buy books to look for them. The Emmeline Kirby Gregory Longman series by Daniella Bernett. And I want to thank you very much for being here, Danielle. It was great to see you again.
Yes, it's been a joy as always to stop by and chat for a little while about England, about books.
Oh,
What better
yes.
subjects to exchange ideas on?
England swings. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome. In closing, I'll just add that the Crime Cafe 9 book set and short story anthology are available for sale from all major retailers. You can find the information about the books and where to buy them on my website, debbimack.com, DEBBIMACK.com, which is where you'll also find our Patreon page. Check it out there. Our guest next time will be Peter Eichstad. Until then, enjoy your week and happy reading.